basically today, I just want to thank John Leonard, first of all, for inviting us. I realize that Michael's done great things, junior ranks and coming up, but really we feel like Olympic trials was kind of the beginning of his career. We're just starting. So to be invited here to share about what we're doing in our journey, I really appreciate that. And, just being here too, I've met so many coaches from different countries, and the sharing within swimming is so awesome. Last night we had Tim come out and watch Michael swim freestyle and work with us a little, and it's just a beautiful thing. And I think, these kind of conferences where we can get together and listen to each other and share, and, you don't have to take what someone says. I think you go away and test it. And really what I'd like to share today is just two things. I did read up a whole bunch on public speaking because, I'm a little nervous to stand up, and it's easier in front of kids because they just believe everything. And, I know that there's so much knowledge here, and really I've been coaching one athlete, and what I've been learning with him, that's what I want to share is our journey. And what I've studied is said share one point, because if you share more than that, people go away and they can't remember anything. But there's really 2 points that I'd like to share that I think have really impacted and changed our journey. And then hopefully you can go away and, what I share about our training, the USRPT-based method, is, Dr. Russell, if you go on his website, he puts all the information out there for you to follow up and research. And that's what I think we need to do, is research. And way back in 30 years ago, we didn't have all the information and the science that we do have now. And I think in a few years' time, we're going to have even more. We might look back in 5 years and think we were doing this. I think we're learning so much about our mind and how our bodies function. And so if we can follow science and we can apply it to our sport, we can do great things. Okay, so when I got the call to come and talk here, I was super excited. I thought this will be awesome because really our journey actually started here in Florida at this location, because it was in 2009. I'd seen my son had a gift. I believe God gives us gifts, and I watched this guy swim, and it was like, wow, he's amazing. And obviously it's a little tainted because I'm his dad, and I have unconditional love for him. But I see how his body was created to move fast in water, and so I was searching for how do I train him? I swam in South Africa growing up, and so but the same as everybody swims, a long yardage, up and down. And I believe there's another way. I searched out scientists, and when we started our journey, but coming here, they were honoring Dr. Carlisle from Australia, and Dr. Russell was speaking. And so I sat in the room, and I think that's his notes. And it was like the 7 myths or 6 myths of swimming. And it was so quiet because it was almost kind of, it was very in your face. And that's one thing about Dr. Russell is, there's no gray. He's just straight science. For me, everything made sense to me. And after that lecture, I come up and asked him for his notes, and that's where my relationship with him started. And so, knowing I'm going to come and speak in the same place that he was, it was like super exciting. I said yes right away. Till we're here a few days, I started thinking, oh man, what did I do? I'm going to stand up here and make a fool of myself. But I can't, because my speech is about training Michael Andrew. We do it every day. I know him. I know what we're doing. And I just probably share a little bit about myself before I start, so you have a little background. Because some of you probably don't even know who I am if you're foreign. And, my name's Peter. I grew up in South Africa. South Africa is very sport-oriented. I know there are South Africans here. The Bonnies over here. When we were in South Africa, we went back actually before this last Olympics because we wanted to offer Michael the opportunity to investigate if he wanted to swim for South Africa. And they invited us to do a clinic, and I spoke at the Sports Institute there. And I always say before is I'm not a scientist, I'm really Michael's coach. And I'm saying that again because at the end I'll give you an opportunity to ask questions. But if it's a question that's too sciencey, I've already covered myself, because that's what happened in Cape Town. And it's like, no, you know what, I'm not a scientist. I know what we're doing and I understand it, and I'm learning all the time. But I grew up in South Africa. Sport's a huge thing in South Africa. So growing up, our lives are kind of different. I was a farm boy, so I was sent away to boarding school. Our family was very tight. Our faith is incredibly important to us. You know, I believe that God died for me. He loves me unconditionally, which I think is huge, because I don't have to earn His love at all. We played sport crazy, but one thing about myself is I've always been a dreamer. I mean, it sounds weird, but my mom and dad used to call me Walter. I don't know if you ever watched that movie, Walter Mitty. Yeah, so we took our kids to watch, and because even when my folks call and we have a close relationship, we speak all the time, they'll say, Walter, you know, what's Walter? And it actually was demeaning, you know, for them. It was, you know, what's wrong with you? You dream all the time. But one thing I've noticed about my kids is they have that as well. They dream, they can dream. And, you know, my wife will always say, if you don't have a plan, you plan to fail. If you don't have a dream, what are you going to achieve? You know, so dreaming is so important. And, you know, some of my little dreams that come true, you know, on the weekends we'd go and that's something I discovered is it's amazing how if you believe something, you can achieve it, you know. And when we were little, we used to go surf on the weekends, my dad, my brother, and I, and I'd watch these guys jumping out of helicopters, all dressed up in their black wetsuits and rolling off fast boats. And that was a dream that I started from little. You know, it's like, wow, you know, I'm looking at these guys. It's super cool. And my dream was I wanted to be one, you know. A couple of years later, it happened, you know. I dreamed to travel the world. When I got married to Tina, we went out for a trip, and 8.5 years later, my folks thought we'd never settle down. We hadn't even been home. We traveled around the globe, living in different places and working. And so dreams come true, you know, if we just have to have them. And that's what I love so much about our kids and our family. We can dream. And obstacles, what are obstacles? You can move right through them, you know. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. Coaching Michael, you know, a lot of people ask me, well, how do you do this? How do you coach your son and be his father? How can you separate those two things? And it's so easy for me, you know, because I unconditionally love Michael, and it's my role to discipline him in his growth. You know, the Bible says, you spare the rod, spoil the child, and not that we beat him all the time. But he probably could be beaten a little bit more. It's tough now because I'm looking up at him. But it's the same thing in swimming, you know, is how do you treat your athletes? It's love. It's love. It's amazing how in this conference this weekend too, you know, speaking to Mark Bottom and a lot of accomplished coaches and the stories they bring, it's about love. And you see it even going to trials. They bring dogs into the meet. So behind there's dogs that are there to love the athletes and comfort the athletes. And this is the one point that I want you to remember. And I'll get to the other, which is the training. But what we've discovered on our journey is, you know, I've always been so performance driven. Like this, we've got to achieve this, got to achieve this. And what we've discovered is there needs to be a purpose. And we've been challenged on this. What is our why? Like, why do we swim? You know, there's got to be something bigger. And if it's all about performance, it's like you lack that unconditional love. Like Michael, you know what happened when he started swimming when he was little? He had just raced free, and it was beautiful. He'd race all the time. He just got faster and faster. It was beautiful to watch. He was excited all the time. And then at about when we were 14, 15, it wasn't Peter Life, but he signed his first contract. And when he signed with Adidas, now suddenly he feels like it's not unconditional love. Now, they're a great company and they love him, but he has to earn something. And so what happens is it's like he's got a backpack on and they put some rocks in there. Because now it's not about just being free and having fun. He feels like he's got to earn something. And it's really, I'm so pleased that we went professionals so early, because we've learned that, wow, we will not define ourselves by performance, you know. I mean, we've made lots of mistakes along the way, you know, even leading up to 2 trials. Tina banned me from reading blogs and stuff where people write about us. And I mean, I'm sure a lot of you are aware some awful things get written. And I felt like, well, it's popular opinion, I should train Michael more and race a little less going into trials. And it was the wrong thing to do, because he's like that horse in that movie, Secretariat. He loves to race. He just loves to race. That horse, you know, we love that movie. You know, it was, I mean, he's not lazy, but the horse was pretty lazy. It didn't really want to train, you know, liked to eat a lot, but man, did it love to race. And that's what he is. He loves to race. And so we took him. I trained him. He was all trained. I felt, man, he's going to be awesome. We go to race, and he underperforms. And then so, like, how do we deal with that? We go back. We train for a long period, and we race again later, and he kind of underperforms. And now it's already eating away at him, like, what's wrong? But, you know, with him, racing was his training. Because if he races close together, he remembers, and he fixes, and he just gets better and better. So it's amazing, you know, understanding, and all athletes are different. But the one key that I'd say to all of you is negatively coaching athletes. It really doesn't work. It's just, you're just putting rocks on them, and they will not perform. It has to be in love, you know. I mean, when we're at meets, I'll watch, and you see parents. And that's hard for you guys too, because you can't control the parents. You know, I think there's got to be parental education. Like, I mean, if you can get them in and say, well, guys, if you do this, this is what's going to happen to your child. You know, it's and so we've been learning this. You know, watch people where they pecking on the kid, and that kid, all that's happening is emotional stress. It's just baggage, and you underperform. And so everybody has to know, if you're going to do well, you know, it's got to be not about, you know, getting that gold. I mean, we train for that, but it's got to be more than that. It's got to be a life thing. And you'll see so we've branded ourselves as race-paced revolution, and you'll see the love backwards. And that's what it really is, about love. You know, we love the sport. We love as a family that we can travel and do this together. And we love people, you know. Don't believe what you read. I mean, and Michael, you know, he loves people, and that's, I think, too, you know, I can brag for him. It makes him so popular. You know, we were invited to Rome, and our friend here, he's in the audience. We went to his meet, and it was wonderful. You know, you see how people come around Michael, and it's because he's gentle, and he shows that love, and it's a beautiful thing. You know, it's not about just winning. Okay, so why USRPT based? Why did we choose that? Okay, I mean, for us it's pretty simple. I mean, I listen to Doc. I love science. I think that the more we can understand how our bodies function, the better we're going to be able to train them. There's 4 main components that really encompass ultra short training, race pace training. The ultra short, I think, throws a lot of people. But it's technique. You know, without technique, I don't think it matters what you do, because water's so resistive, and you will not be efficient. Okay, psychology, the mental side of it, that is giant. We've been so blessed to have connected with Dr. Tim Noakes in South Africa, and the mental aspect, and he's working on this. He calls it the central governor theory, where your mind does. It controls, you know, if you think you're tired, your mind will convince your muscles that they're tired and your nerves are tired. And so the mental is very, very powerful. And then obviously in our swimming, when we train at specific pace, race, the whole deal, we want to visualize every movement that we do so that it becomes neural. Okay, and then the conditioning is probably comes in fourth. And that's what I'm going to cover today, is why and what caught my attention of why we should condition our bodies this way. And then obviously nutrition, as Tim has said, that's pivotal, because you try emptying your car and then driving to the airport. You're not going to get far. And it's the same thing. We empty our bodies. We have to fuel them. And it's a tough living in the US, because although everyone says genetically modified foods is not a big thing, it's, the value of food it's really not what it was 60, 30 years ago. So it's a big deal. Now I'm going to jump right across into the conditioning, okay? So how we break down a set for Michael, I'm going to just, if we're going to swim the 100 free, okay, and we're actually going to a stage now where we're actually trying to do no slow swimming. So we're trying to do everything at pace. So even the warm-up, there's so many studies on a warm-up where unless it's within that 15 minutes before you race, it's really pointless. And when you get to a high-level meet, you're going to sit in the ready room for a half hour. So you need to know how to do a dry land warm-up. And the tough thing is, too, no matter what, the warm-up pool's always tiny. You have a ton of kids in there. You try and warm your body up in a cold pool. You have to do so much to warm it up. It's just it's tough, okay? Even your warm down, I understand the value of raising the heart rate to help flush out lactate. But, you can do that with a skipping rope or jogging around. And so we're trying to do everything. So what we put into our brains neurally, that's what comes out. So explaining 100 freestyle, if I want Michael to swim 60 seconds, okay, what we'll do is there's no way we can train 100 freestyle all on its own, because it's too fast. You'll maybe do one. In fact, you won't do more than one. So we break it down, and that's where the ultra short falls in. So we'll break it down into 4 lengths. So we'll take that 60 seconds, divide it by 4, so it's 15 seconds a length. The most important thing on the way we train is the rest times, okay? We want his body, when he swims, to be functioning, his aerobic system be functioning maximally throughout the whole set, okay? Because the problem comes, and we've experienced this, where you give a little bit more rest, and it's all about the lactate and glycogen. That's the big deal. If you get more rest, your heart rate starts to drop off, then you build lactate, and you won't be able to manage the set too long, and you won't get any value to it. So rest times, when he's panting and huffing and puffing, and he sometimes tries to engage me in conversation, and I know what he's doing. He's trying to get rest, but it's no value. Okay, so we want him throughout that whole set to keep his heart rate functioning maximally. Because what happens is, when he swims at 15 seconds for his repeat, and when he has the 15 seconds rest, all that happens in that rest time is it's enough time for his blood to cycle over, and he kind of reoxygenates the muscles and gets him ready to go again. But it's not enough time for the aerobic system to drop off. And when he's training for the hundreds, and you'd see, I looked on Tim's example there, most all of those were 100s and 50s, and that could be my fault, because and we do make lots of mistakes, but I've given Michael more ownership in his training, and so he likes sprinting, 50s and 100s. And so, we've revisited after trials, and, Michael's really going to make the 200 IM, 200 fly, 200 IM, all the 200s. The 200s are going to come back on his scale, so we're going to start training for them. And training for 200s, we train for the 200s by doing 50-meter repeats. And then on 200s, we do 20 seconds rest between. So anything over a 25, we have 20 seconds rest between repeats. But for 100 pace, it's just 15 seconds. Okay. When we talk about neural failure, so basically a neural failure, so there has to be failure for there to be adaptation. Okay, it's like a bodybuilder. You can't go into the gym and just push a few weights and not tear your muscle, because then you're just going to stay the same forever. So there has to be a point of failure. Okay, so we try and keep his failure neural, which is brain, firing to muscle is a small breakdown, but it's failure. Okay, we try and stay away from deep failure. And that would be, again, explaining a bodybuilder. You go in, there's a guy in the 60s, Mike Mensa, that said, you just takes one bullet to kill you, which he was kind of saying was, you can get in the gym and do one set, and that'll fail your muscle. Now you need to feed it, rest, and let it grow back up again. If you keep pumping on that failed muscle, you just dig a deeper and deeper inroad. And then it's going to take you, instead of 72 hours, you're looking at a week to recoup. And so that's why we keep him. We'll have a maximum of 3 neural failures in a set, and that's the end of the set. And the goal is to make 4 times race distance in a set. So that would be, for the 100, I'm really looking for 16 repetitions. And then after that, neural failures come pretty quick. So, if we get 2 back-to-back, that's the end of the set. So we'll say, let's try and make 30. If he's making 20, that's awesome. So we're really not looking at distance. We're looking at quality. Quality. Okay. Okay, so this was what got me, okay, knowing this is the way we've got to train, okay, is this study, they did it on cyclists. It's Astrand and Rodal in 1977. And so obviously they couldn't do it on swimmers because they'd probably have killed people because you hooked up to machines and electrodes, but blood lactate and muscle glycogen. And if you watched, the whole test was testing what happens to lactate if we do short work and short rest. Okay, and if you see on the graph in the blood lactate, short work, short rest, they're really a very, very little amount of lactate that develops. And lactate's not bad; it's the acid that sits in there. And you guys, most of you have swum. You feel what it feels like after a really hard 50 or 100. That acid just locks you down. Okay, so very, very small amount of lactate builds up. When we go short work, short rest, as opposed to the top graph, long work, long rest. And I think for us, the deal as well is fatigue. When you're swimming long and you're really pushing it, and then you start to swim with all this lactate in you, you start to change the way you'll perform what you're swimming. So what happens is now maybe instead of adducting up and down, which is nice and powerful, the shoulders are safe, you start to, from tiredness, drop an arm, and you're rolling over, and so damage. Once your shoulders have gone, I believe we are upper quadrant driven, and when shoulders go, we're done. Okay? With the way we train, once he's had his neural failures, he's done. He holds his form, and that's the whole thing of it. Is we are trying to neurally train him so that when he comes to a race, he's done the same thing over and over and over. I think our brain, I know our brain codes every movement we make. So you come into the pool and you have a kid swim 75, like sideways something, and upside down, and descending, ascending. You've got all that in there. And then they come to race, and you say, hey, I'd like you to swim 60 seconds. I want you to get this. It's like now that kid's got to draw all that from its brain and apply it to go 60 seconds for the 100 free. Whereas with Michael, and it's amazing how dead on it works, is we've trained him at that. Everything is neurally programmed. When he comes to race, he doesn't have to think anything. He dives in and he goes. It's just natural. In fact, I got a study from Mitch Dalton the other day, and it was really interesting, and again about the brain, and it was talking about how when we're little, we can't walk, right? So we got bad coordination, and so everything sits, and I might goof this up, but everything I believe sits in the cerebral cortex, and so you're learning the coordination to walk. As you learn to walk, it shifts to the cerebellum. And so now it's natural. And it's just like our swimming. Now it's natural. We come to a race, we can just do it. But what happens a lot of time with athletes is they come to the race, and now they start to think. Everything sits in the cerebellum, but they start to think, man, I've got to perform this way. And what happens is the whole thinking shifts back to the cerebral cortex, and now you're back to being that baby of having bad coordination. And you'll see so many people, they goof up, and why at trials can Michael perform so well? I know he didn't make the team or anything, and we didn't expect it really, but why can he do so well and so many, the vast majority, so underperform? It's because they put all that pressure on themselves. They're overthinking, and they're not just showing up and racing free. And it goes back to that thing of focusing too much on the prize, that it's being performance driven and purpose driven. And it's such a big deal. And I think the more we can educate our athletes on that, being freer, not overthinking when you arrive, but training them to, when they arrive at the venue, they can just dive in and race and enjoy it. And I mean, I always used to listen to coaches say, just enjoy the process, enjoy it. And it sounded to me like so goofy, but it's so real. If you really enjoy what you're doing, it doesn't matter. You will be successful. Okay. So the muscle glycogen side, same thing on the if you watch, once we run out of if you really deplete your muscle glycogen completely, there's been studies that'll say it takes 48 hours to replenish. And that's our fuel. So with short work, short rest, we retain high levels of muscle glycogen. And the opposite of doing long work, long rest, it gets depleted. And so this was really the study that sold me. Okay, I get it, and mentally getting ready. Okay, and we spoke about adaptation. Okay, the body. If you watch on this graph here, this is how we always aiming to go. Is when we start, the in session would be in the water. We start. So those first 4 repeats when he starts his first set are really, his body's just kind of that's kind of our warm-up. His body gets into the feel, and it gets it gets itself going and gets set up. There's no real learning. And then he starts to deteriorate. Okay, I mean, he's holding on. He has neural failure, end of set. And in fact, when we do the sets, it's just like doing a meet, because if we're doing a meet like 2 weeks or 4 weeks out, we'll know the races that he's going to race. And so we'll do, let's say they're concentrating on the 100 free and the 100 breast. We'll do our first set, 100 free, and then once he's had his few neural failures, we'll take like 15 minutes. So it's almost like doing your race, and now that 15 minutes is where we will relax, flush out, the warm down, get the body flushing out the lactate, and then we go for our next set. So that would be a training. So we've done our next set. It's just like in a race. We're training at that race speed, and so his training's really like racing anyway. I mean, it's just so when we get to the race, I mean, it's all been done. So we get out of the water, he's had neural failures, and then the rest part. Rests, eats, drinks Peter Life, and he gets to the same level as where he started, and then there's overcompensation where we get a little stronger. It's the same thing as the bodybuilder. Muscle tear, have to rest, have to feed it, and we get that little bit stronger. And this is why, with Michael, getting those small fatigues, we can turn around in 8 hours, and he can overcompensate and have that training effect. If we pushed him any harder, and there's frustration in the way we train too, because sometimes we'll come down to the pool and he hasn't healed up, and sometimes it's even longer than a day. It's like Olympic trials journey. It's, some other things come into play, and you can miss a day, miss another day, and it's like, it gets really frustrating, and you think, well, what should I do? Maybe we should just swim long or swim slower. But, I really I believe that if we train slower, we're training to go slower. And so we will just let that body rest till we can train at the pace that we're meant to race. And it works. Okay, so this is really important. This is how his his training's going to look in succession. And that's why, we've done experiments when he was a little younger where we'll go and we really, and it seems, it is crazy. And I always, I'd always say to Tina, why do people think we're crazy? And I know that one year, but we were having issues with our green cards and we were going to move to Australia. And so we had, Tina's passport was expired and it was just a huge thing. And so we figured, let's just race, and train and race and see what we can do. And it was, I think, when you were 14. And so I don't know how many meets we did in that year. It was, I think there was like 2 weekends of the year that we didn't race. And so obviously I understand it seems crazy, but that's what we're doing. But it was amazing how weekend over weekend he could get stronger and stronger and stronger. And it's because he's always recuperating and getting stronger. And what I do, like if we're going from one meet and we're going to compete the next weekend, is in his training, I will not let him fail. So I know he's going to make 16 repeats before he has his first neural failure. So I'll stop him at 12. So we're just really maintaining. And that's, and that's just, again, when you have athletes, everybody's different, and you'll find all that out as you go. But that's what we're always looking for, is to get stronger. The greatest athletes are rested athletes. We at all costs want to avoid this, where you're in session, out of session, you don't recuperate. You've burnt up too much glycogen. You end up with this stair step down, and it's just horrible. And then we never really talk about, I know everybody talks about it, I'm not tapered, the taper. I understand it, but I don't really. But I know what happens is your athlete's broken down to that crazy level, and then you want to do the big taper and hopefully get them back up to above where they started. And and it's I think that I know that we're on this journey and there's a different way. I know Michael's body is so fresh, and I know we have dreams. I have read a lot about, Michael should be training with other athletes, and we really are at a stage now where I do believe that we'd like to create a team where he's training with the other athletes. It's kind of in talks, and we're moving along. How am I on time? I've probably done, eh? Do I need to be done? Okay. So the technique, we'll just talk quickly about technique. I think, what are we? We're penguins, not dolphins. Our power all comes from the arms. I believe we need to, in all our strokes, be flatter. I think Bernelli's theory of lift was disproved way long ago, and most athletes spend too much time lifting. I think we need to be flatter. We need to be streamlined. What is streamlined? I think, I know Sun Young's a bad word, but if you watch his body, he keeps his hips higher than his head. I think we need to be like that in all our strokes. Michael's breaststroke's very flat. I was standing, we just did the World Cup, and I was standing with Cameron van der Berg, and he said, man, Michael's breaststroke's really flat. and it's true, we work to stay. The flatter we can stay. The flatter we can stay and fly as well. And the less we can undulate, the less movement. So we've been very blessed to have been sponsored by the Swim Pro cameras out of Australia. So we can really watch drag. And what is swimming? It's just drag and propulsion. I believe you can be maximally propulsive. Like a speedboat, a motorboat, you crank that thing up too fast, it cavitates. I believe we can cavitate, but I think drag we can always reduce. And if you can, I think cameras are incredibly important because you can see everything. You can freeze frame and catch all that. So we've got lots to learn because Michael's freestyle is really not great. It was great to be with Ian Pope last night. He's Mac Horton's under his tutelage, and he's had Grant Hackett, and he's a legend. And so to have people like that will come and share, and it's a beautiful thing. So we'll continually be working on form and stroke. Newton's laws, I think that's probably left out a lot, is what's happening here, there's an equal and opposite effect on the other side. So if your head's up, your tail's down. If your arm's out here, you're going to have something else trying to overcompensate. And so technique, it's huge. If you go on Dr. Russell's website, we've kind of worked on technique this way. We start off with streamline. Obviously, it's the most important. Once your line breaks, breathing and body roll control your line, and we kind of work week after week on trying to maintain the whole body. Okay. Psychology, the mind is huge. Josh Davies we had chapel this morning, which was awesome, and now it seems like I put his name in there, but good relationships, low stress, high performance. Bad relationships, high stress, low performance. Yeah, it's so simple. Emotional upheaval really drains energy, and you can't fool your athletes. I've tried with Michael to put on a good face when I really feel frustrated, and he reads me like a book. It's got to be that same love that God gives us. It's unconditional. And once things become conditional, we lose. We lose. So it's a big deal. Dr. Tim Noakes doing the central governor work it's amazing. And I still think the mind's so untapped. We know so little about it. And then moving on to nutrition. Noakes as well. And I love guys like this. He was a big, high carb guy. Everything was about carbohydrates. And now as more's come out about the body, he's done a complete 180, and he's all about high fat. We got to visit with him about diet when we were over there. And again, not a lot of science out. Great for ultra-distance athletes being fat adapted. But as a sprinter, there's got to be a source of carb because it's fast burning and gives you that fuel quickly. And that was, his thing was experiment. Stay away from sugar. Make sure you're hydrated. We have a doctor a friend that works with cancer patients. He's trying to heal them without killing them with what's that? With a chemo. Yeah, he's trying to get away from chemo and speaking about sugar and just crazy. All these things. And again, we're fortunate that we have control. That not that we control him because he still likes candy and stuff, but we can monitor everything. Yeah. The last thing here is Dr. Forbes Carlyle. Okay. And I wanted to read this because I know our journey is still just beginning. Trials really, I feel like it's the start of our journey. And I believe Michael's going to do great things in swimming. And because that's what he wants. And he believes it. I believe his body is built for speed. And if we don't get in the way, we're going to have an amazing journey. But Dr. Carlyle, before he passed away, and he really was like the doc councilman of Australian swimming. And this is what he said in an article that's also published in Dr. Russell's works. But he said, "We find it very difficult to understand why anyone would not grasp all the facets of USRPT. It is scientifically born and eliminates much of the irrelevance of the modern-day swimming experience. For those who use it wisely and knowingly, the reports of successes and delights are burgeoning more each day. USRPT is the most explained and described coaching model for swimming that I've come across in my long history of involvement in swimming. Sometimes Ursula and I wish we were younger so that we could coach the USRPT way. We have no doubt how much more successful we would have been in our careers had that been possible." And there's definitely change happening, guys. When I was out now on this World Cup, I had coffee with Manadu, Manadu, the sprinters coach, and And he has athletes that are wanting to train this way. And so there's more and more high-profile coaches that are, okay, we're going to do it, And so there's a change, and it's happening fast. And so, don't believe stuff I say. I think research and try it. Try it on a select group of kids and see. I understand change is hard, especially when we've been doing something for so long one way. And look at other sports, running. Usain Bolt doesn't run marathons to run that fast. And just understand the body. Our resources. And one thing I wanted to say too was Dr. Russell has started a USRPT international organization. So he's kind of gone global for coaches to come and belong and to learn more about what we're doing. So that's there for you to hook into. So USRPTIA.org. Okay, and also we have the clinic. It covers all the science, and it's really excellent. But obviously, most everything is online as well for you. Questions and answers. If anyone's got any answers, I'll ask the questions. Thank you. So seriously, did anyone have any questions? No? Well, okay.
You talked about glycogen depletion during practice. Do you guys supplement with anything during?
So the question was, do we supplement with anything to keep up our glycogen levels during training? And we did try Vitago. We're friends with a lady that used it in the Olympics, and she loved it. She said it was totally anti-bloating. We spoke a lot with Anthony Almeida, but Michael didn't like it, and so we don't. We do supplement a little bit with a product called UCAN, but no. And our trainings aren't that long. We're really in the pool, under load for 30 minutes, yeah.
One thing is we actually make meat, so our South African background that can speak more.
Yeah. Well, so we do. We are big meat eaters. That's why Michael. If you go to South Africa, most of the people we eat a lot of red meat, and we do make our own. But it's not. That's really a more high protein. So we eat a lot of. We hang the meat, and we get our spices from South Africa, and we call it. You call it jerky, but we don't cook it. We hang it raw. And it's really nice. But, yeah, we've hooked them on it. Yeah. Yeah, dryland training, wow. We did, and we have made mistakes. We for dryland training, we bought surf skis. He likes to wakeboard. So we try and make everything fun. And while working, because I have no doubt your core, everything needs to be connected, and so the core needs to be powerful. My daughter was wanting to do American Ninja Warrior, so our house is like a warrior home. We have sticks and stuff. We have a big log home, and so they do a lot of that. We have in the pool like rings that they can swing, and so. But I just really try and make that fun. We tried weights, and weights works specific muscles, and I know there's no science that talks about the carryover of weights to work the whole body. And our problem with that was I decided not to do it on my own because I know enough to be dangerous, and probably even with swimming. But we worked with a very, very great trainer. But his fatigue, the carryover was, I'm looking at like 72 hours. So getting him into the pool to swim fast, it was just, and then the whole time I have a friend, that cancer doctor, who his girlfriend or fiance won the last 200-meter dashes, Lauren Williams. She's probably better known for dropping the bat in the relay twice, yeah. but it wasn't her fault. But they started her with weights, and she just got a little worse. And he was just telling me, don't do it, but try it, And we tried it, and I have no doubt. Michael has no doubt. I think the main thing we tried it for was Michael been racing with great friends with Josh Schneider and racing next to Anthony Irvin, and you stand, and if you look at his body, I know on a picture it looks like he's this big ripped guy, but he's really not. He's skinny, he's growing. There's still so much happening in his body, and he felt just like, I want to be bigger, And so we went that way. But for us, it was a big mistake, and we won't do it. We won't do that again. But yeah, so long-winded. Yeah, dry land's just fun. Yeah, warm-up. So warm-up, we have gone away from, and this was a thing that we thought about for warm-up, is when you get to the pool, imagine now, because we want to have everything be like a sequence, so you know what to expect. Because if you've kind of flustered it makes you a little disturbed and it throws you off. And sometimes you can go to a pool and there's clear water to warm up in. So what we used to do for a water warm up was 10 minutes before we race, we'd get in and do like 4 to 6 repeats at the pace that he's going to race. But the problem is sometimes you have clear water, sometimes you don't. And if you don't, and you're used to doing that, it kind of throws you off. So we're going to a situation now where we do no in-water warm-up. He'll take a skipping rope, and he skips. And we've been pretty bad on the visualization process. We going back to do that properly, But warm up, and even the warm downs, we're starting to not to incorporate any slow swimming, because it can be done. Even a warm-up, you can jump in a hot shower. You're going to warm your body up. I watched the Cal guys at trials. They're putting heat jackets. Wow, that's so smart. You warm up the body, because that's all you need. And it's so hard in a pool of water. The temperature's a couple degrees lower than your body temperature. You're not going to really get warmed up. And so that's where our warm-up is. Yeah, so the question's neural failure. Yeah, and that is it. It's so if he's got to hold 15s, if he goes a 15.5, done. The first 4 I give him leeway. It's like, because that's really the body's just adapting and getting into the swing of it. But after that, he has to make it. And sometimes he'll miss by a little bit, and he'll tell me, no, I slipped on the wall or something, and then we let him go again. But usually if it's a true failure, neural failure, and he says, no, I goofed up, and he goes the next one, he fails again, I know for sure it's, yeah.
Okay, so when you're doing the 16-25, you mentioned you do that 2 or 3 times, is that accurate?
Yeah.
Okay, is that it for the whole practice? In other words, it would have been 48 25s and X amount of neural failures he's done. Is that it for the day?
That's it for the day. Yeah. And we've been experimenting with 2 practices, 1 practice, and just seeing, because it seems like a lot of the time if you go like double, that fatigue does build. And then eventually it's just like you can't do anything. So it's trying to find, we're still experimenting. And I believe the training, but how many practices do we have? And a good example was Junior Worlds, okay? He wanted to swim the 50s. And to be able to swim the 50s, you had to swim the 100s. And so he had a ton of races to go at Junior Worlds. So we went away and we trained for the one night. He's going to have a workload of 5 events. It was a ton of events, and it's kind of like Katinka Hosu, but he's not Katinka Hosu. And so we trained. We did 5 sets, so it was hectic. But he was doing well. And so I knew at Junior Worlds he could go. Unfortunately, that was the first time that I couldn't be his coach, and so it was like, oh, great. He's going to go there. He's doing this huge load. We're going to watch. And he might argue with me, but I think once your mind takes over, you're done. And I think what happened there is everyone's saying, Michael, wow, that's so hard. How can you do it? How can you do it? And I think he bought into it. Like, wow, this is hard. And then he still did well, but I know he's had more in him. And I want to do it again, but I don't think he'll do it.
If you're a high school coach, for example, and you're just dealing with a 6-lane, 25-yard pool, you got 4 kids in a lane, you usually swim in circles, this kind of thing. Would you implement USRPT by maybe having a dry land, try to get some clean water
Yeah.
so these kids can swim all night, not jump?
Yeah, yeah.
And is that how you would try to implement it in that setting?
Yeah, yeah. The question's implementing it in a setting of high school with you're at 6 lanes and a bunch of kids, and unfortunately, I train just Michael. I want to do a team because I feel like we're ready, to have like a pro team, and but I mean we've thought about it and we've read other people that are doing it and how like you could have kids in their 15 minutes that they're not swimming, be out timing the other kids. You make the pace clock under the water, right? That you can sync on both sides. I think there's lots of ways you can do it. And ultimately it's down to the kids how well they want to do and do they buy into it. And I think, again, mentally, kids coming out of a program where they've swum high yardage and now you're doing almost nothing, it's like, man, do I believe this? And so it's education and then doing it for a while. But yeah, I think there's lots of ways you can do it. I think there's the Triton guy sitting there. We've been trying out Triton and that tracks, you can track all your athletes. I think technology and things that are happening, there's so much that, we can, all you guys are so smart. And that's why I think belonging to like a USRPT, the international organization, you can connect with other coaches and how you guys doing it and share knowledge, and yeah. 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 16 is the minimum that I'd like him to make. If he can go 20, if he makes too many, if he's making 30, then we reduce the time. And that's the thing is, like we start off on let's say he's doing 50s on 30 seconds. If he makes 16 or 20, then it's like, we bring the time down to 29.5s. And that's how you get better and better because now but it's the same way, but we rest 20 seconds. And so we only ever, even if he is swimming the mile and he is doing it on 100, he's doing 100 pace at his mile pace, hundreds at his mile pace, we'll just rest the 20 seconds. So it's 15 seconds for 100 pace, 20 seconds for everything else. And I think that's the crucial thing is the rest time because if you rest too long, it won't work. Yeah. Yeah, and that's the timing. I try and get him from when his feet leave to when he touches. So I try and be a hand, and I'll get his splits. But you know how accurate it's got to be a little off, and that's as well. We've been trying out Triton and been trying to figure out, okay, how do we get more exact? But definitely, if you're timing, you just try and do the exact same thing every time. So that at least, and we've had it where Tina's come down to time him, and he'll say, like, what the heck? Because she's timing him on go, and he's still standing on the block, And so I try and do the same thing over. It's kind of like he's training, you're doing the same thing. You're trying to program your brain to do the same thing over and over, and so that's how it comes out with program. Yeah. Yeah. So how much is short course of our training and how much is long course? And basically, all our training is short course. Doc's done a study on training in short course meters, and all the data is there. So our pool is 27 meters. So we've got a bulkhead that we put in. So we train at 25 meters, and that's good. We go into the town pool because Michael's underwaters are not good. And his turns, are not good. And basically our pool has a soft side and then a bulkhead that moves. And so it's 4.5 feet. So that's what we're on now is getting his underwaters better, working on that. So we have definite massive weaknesses, but we're aware of them, and so we get them right. They become massive strengths. But yes, all short course training. Yeah. Yeah, no drills. So how do we do drills? We don't do any drills. I believe that when you're a little kid and you're learning to swim, I think drills are important. But once you're proficient, we try to do everything at the race pace. So we don't do drills. We don't use any tools. I think a kickboard, for instance, if you think about kicking, there's only two propulsive kicks. The breaststroke kick is propulsive, and your underwater kick where we're sweeping, that's propulsive. But the rest are for balance. And so if you have a kid on a kickboard and you're kicking flat up and down, you're training him to do something that he's never going to do. Because when you swim freestyle or backstroke, we rotate, right? The hips and the shoulders rotate together. So kicking flat, it doesn't. And, I mean, the kick's got to be small inside the body line, creating less drag. There's a study done in Western Australia on the size of the kick, the amplitude. How a bigger kick creates more drag. I mean, it creates more propulsion, but drag always outweighs propulsion. So drills we don't do.
Assuming Martin was a dual citizen, could he have swum for South Africa after U.S. trials?
Oh, no. No. So the question was, could he have swum for South Africa? The rule is, because he's represented U.S. and Pan Pacs, there's got to be a year. You have to live in a country for a year before you can, I think Eric Rizzavolta's just experienced that, where he was going to swim for Puerto Rico, but he hadn't been there for a year, and so he couldn't have. But so we were there a little bit before the year to give him the opportunity to decide for himself. And that's one thing. I mean, this is his journey. We've decided that, he's my gift, and I recognize the gift in him. And so, we're on the journey with him as a family, and we'll help our kids no matter what, to be their very best. And so I'll take criticism and hate and whatever, because I believe we're doing the right thing. And ultimately it's his decision if he wants to train with someone else. Some people think we've created this and taken him down this line so he couldn't leave because no one else is doing it. But it's not that, I believe this. He believes it. So probably we've brainwashed him well enough. But there's going to be more. There's going to be more coaches that are way better than I probably could ever be that will be doing it. And then it'll be his decision. Like, do you want to? That's, we'll support him no matter what. Yeah, I know. I was having that discussion with Ian Pope too about doing it slowly, but we really do it at the speed. So we don't, and so that's something I'm always trying to get over my head is if I slow everything down and don't do it at race speed, then I'm training him. Now suddenly when you speed it up, it's not going to be the same as that you did it slowly. And I understand feel and feeling and all that, but we try and make it all within the speed that he's racing. And I see it. The nice thing is I've got 15 seconds when he hits that wall to tell him, okay, try and make this a